Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the third of our webinar series, our survival webinar series. And it's great to have so many of you people coming along every week and attending. Firstly, can we please thank our primary sponsors, our platinum partners, Huawei, FEMA, Sungrow and Longi, and then all our gold partners, of which there are many there. Please support them. They've been so supportive of us in this endeavour, and we really am very appreciative of the contribution they've made, both in content and in giving us the resources to make this happen. So we really appreciate their contribution. I'd like to welcome our speakers. We're very blessed to have from the Smart Energy Council, John Grimes, Deepak Nayak, who is our platinum sponsor from Sungrow. Myself, I'll be doing a talk on social media marketing. Peter Novak from Suntech, Ron McDermott, who is a specialist in the presentation and arena, and Michael Rush from Canadian Solar, who is a gold sponsor, a gold partner, as is Suntech. We've got something different today. We were going to have beer o'clock, which was something that at the end of the presentation allowed you guys to come in and test this live streaming experience and this Zoom experience, and maybe have a chance to talk and network and get together. But we're doing something very different thanks to our friends at the Smart Energy Council. At 3 o'clock, they've got an online event. And so we're going to encourage all of you people to come along to that event at the end of ours. It's going to be slightly different. It's using a different platform. It allows you to have breakout groups and network, and also virtual booths. So you could visit the One Stop Solar Warehouse virtual booth at that event and get to know us a little bit better, and there's video presentations and people to talk to. So that's going to be a different experience altogether. So I'm looking forward to being a part of that as well. If the people who are presenting, who have we got? Deepak, do you want to say hello just for a quick second and show your face, and we can say good day. Hey, hello, Deepak,
Tim.
how are you going?
Hi, Tim. I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Welcome. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Hi, Tim. Great to be with you.
Pleasure.
From sunny
Fantastic.
Melbourne.
Who else? Oh, well, sunny's good for Melbourne, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Is Peter there? Are you there as well?
Hey, Tim. How are you? I'm also from
Good.
Melbourne.
Oh, look, I like that background.
Yeah.
I like that background.
It's a bit different, but not a reflection of where I'm at, but yeah, I thought it was a bit iconic. But, nice to be
We're looking forward to hearing your presentation too. And John Grimes, would you like to say hello? Actually, before John, I might actually get Ron in. Can you say hello?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me along here today, Tim.
Now, Ron, you're going to be doing the other marketing talk. What's the topic that you're going to be sharing with us?
It's going to be called The Vaccine That Your Business Needs Right Now.
Well, that sounds slightly appropriate. Looking forward to hearing that. And finally, is Albert there from One Stop Warehouse in Victoria as well, which is apparently sunny at the moment.
Hi there, Tim. It's pretty sunny, as you can see behind me. But yeah, for those of you that don't know, I'm one of the account managers in the Victorian office. So thanks for inviting me along, and hello to everyone that's tuning in.
Pleasure. I will look forward to hearing from you late today, but looking forward to it, and that'll be great. And lastly, if John, you could jump in and say hello, and then I might hand over from that to you for your presentation.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Tim. And congratulations to One Stop Warehouse. I think it's true that in these uncertain times, what we need more than ever is good information and good communication. And so using new technology to really link people together is fantastic. And mate, it's not just our businesses who are hanging out for a vaccine. It's the rest of us as well. But great topic. So what I thought I might do this morning or this afternoon, Tim, is really just step through and give a bit of a view of what we're seeing happening in the market. The situation's changing very rapidly, but you know, just happy to share our view. I'll talk about domestic and household solar and storage first. So this has been a pretty resilient part of the market. So there was a lot of pent-up demand. Installations were happening at a record pace. Record STCs being produced. That happened through February and March. March was another record. And there's been some forward momentum with that, where people actually had made future sales, you know, as much as 4 to 6 weeks out. And so that's actually been reasonably resilient. It certainly hasn't been the first part of the market that's been affected, but in the last 2 weeks, there's been a very substantial drop-off. So particularly in the last week. So what we're hearing as feedback from people on the ground is a couple of things driving that. First, older people, retired people, who, as we know, make up a reasonably sizable portion of the market, are very concerned about having anybody at their house. And so they're very nervous about, getting physically close to people. The other area that's been a little bit worrying is people have been concerned about their own job prospects. While JobKeeper was announced, people didn't know whether their companies would qualify, whether they would qualify, and they kind of didn't want to, commit to anything until that was well known and understood. And so while we've seen the finance market react really quickly with things like fully financed systems today, but the repayments don't start until 2021, that's been really helpful. But in an environment where people aren't sure whether they're going to have a job in 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks' time, they're very reluctant to enter into taking on more debt and spending limited capital. I'm hopeful that with the opening of the JobKeeper scheme on Monday and the certainty that people are getting from that will ameliorate, but it has been a point of concern for people and one of the drivers as to why I think there's been a definite softening in the market. Now, it's not all bad news for rooftop solar. There are some interesting and good things happening as well. And on the plus side, we are seeing people very concerned about their own self-sufficiency in their homes and their businesses. So particularly the home, if you can have your own energy supply, your own storage supply, people are drawn to that at the moment because they're feeling vulnerable and as though the world is outside of their control. So that's something they can control and engage with. The other thing that we're seeing from a positive perspective is that people's superannuation has taken a big hit. So the market is a sea of red. There's not a good place to put your money. So in the banks, not getting record low interest rates. So making the point to customers that getting an internal rate of return of at least 25%, in many cases much higher than that, with your money is the absolute smartest investment you could make today. So I think there is a financial angle to this, and I think we can collectively use that as a way to get people to continue to buy and install solar and batteries. So that gives you a bit of a sense for the household market. Has been strong, but has actually dropped off quite rapidly. And so we collectively are going to need to do some work on that, and I'll come back to our response to that. The next part of the market that I want to talk about is the commercial market. Now, at the moment, the federal government, as part of their stimulus program, has an instant asset write-off, a tax rebate available. That means businesses that buy and install an asset worth more than up to $150,000 can write off the entire amount of that asset in this current financial year. That's absolutely fantastic. So you could, for example, install a very large solar system for $150,000 and then separately install a very large battery system for $150,000, and the business would be able to write off both of those investments immediately this financial year. Now there is so the smart people, you know, with the finance companies have come up with models where they're approaching businesses, and the sell basically goes like this: let us put in a big solar system and a big battery for you. You'll effectively won't pay a power bill between now and December. So we'll effectively put $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 into your pocket between now and December. The repayments will begin in January, and when those repayments begin, after you've depreciated the asset, the amount that you're paying is going to be substantially less than your power bill going forward. So the proposition is, put it in. We'll actually put money in your pocket, right? For, you know, immediately. That what company couldn't use that sort of help at the moment? The downside for this is that the installation must be sold and fully installed before the end of the financial year. If it's not, then it'll roll over to next financial year, and this very generous scheme has a sunset clause at the end of this financial year. You'll still be able to do a $50,000 instant asset write-off, but it's not as generous as the $150,000, which you can actually apply to multiple different assets. So if you've got a pipeline of prospective clients in the commercial space, you know, the gelato maker, the panel beater, the supermarket, the nursing home, now's the time to get in contact with them and farm those leads to see if you can't sell some larger systems and help them save a lot of money in the process. On the downside of the commercial space, we're hearing that some of those businesses are hard to contact at the moment because they're working from home and people aren't getting back in time. And as I said, the other limitation to that is that this runs out on the 1st of July. Talk now about the large scale part of the market. Now, large scale solar in particular was facing some fairly significant headwinds even before COVID-19 came along. There was increasing grid congestion, so getting connection approvals was proving difficult. We had marginal loss factors where, on a rolling basis, they're changed, and they were quite punitive against some of the solar assets that have been deployed. And the AEMC was looking to introduce a rule change, COGATI, which would have basically seen new solar and wind farms pay money to existing coal-fired power stations. So luckily that rule change got knocked on the head, and we were very active in making sure that happened. But it meant that already it wasn't a great environment. I don't think that the certainty has improved any through COVID-19, although I would note two positive upsides there. The first is that finances have stuck. So finance is still available for large projects in Australia. On a global basis, investors see Australia as a good location to invest in these big projects. The second is that as demand slows in other markets, Europe, North America, Middle East, places that have been very hard hit by the coronavirus, then there will be additional stock coming onto the market, and you may actually see prices fall in the short term. And so that might actually offset some of the price rises that we're seeing through the low Australian dollar. Couple of things to finish off for you. So that's a bit of a view of the market. In terms of our response to that, the work that we see as the most important at the moment. The first is that we need to be sending a message to the community that it's never been a better time to buy and install solar and batteries. And so we're going to coordinate a buy solar campaign where we're going to actually help push that message out through social media, through partnerships. And if you have networks of people you can send that message to, that would be fantastic. Put your own company logo on it, be seen as someone who's got your customers' best interests at heart, and we'll come back and talk more about that. The other thing that we're doing is important advocacy work. The whole world has changed. The way that governments thought about spending money has fundamentally changed. The Australian government has now spent something like 18% of GDP in keeping the economy alive, and that's not going to be the end of it. The next phase of this will be stimulus spending. And so we're making the argument to governments, state governments, territory governments, and the federal government, that there's never been a better time to subsidise and support solar and batteries, because you get two bites at the cherry. First, you support small mum and dad businesses right across every state and territory, in rural and regional parts of Australia, in the big cities as well. These are the screwdriver ready projects where they can start work on these projects today. There are teams, apprentices, installation teams ready to go. So there's a big boost for local business. But second, every person who installs one of these is slashing their power bill. So they have more money to spend in the economy, to create more jobs, and actually to boost the recovery of the economy. So it's a win-win. It's a double bite of the cherry. So we're kind of making that argument. We're talking about screwdriver-ready projects, so immediate installations on rooftops. We're talking about shovel-ready projects, the kind of the commercial scale projects, and we're talking about the bulldozer-ready projects, which we could ramp up and get underway in under 12 months. These are the large-scale transmission lines. They're big solar farms. They're big energy storage on the grid and the network. So we're very active in telling that story, and yeah, it's part of what we're doing. We're about to start a campaign called the Every Public Building Campaign, which will advocate for solar and storage, for electric vehicle charging stations, for energy efficiency in every public building in the country, every school, every hospital, every fire shed, every community evacuation centre, and you think about the reach of that is extraordinary. And every public housing home in the country, and we'll need a whole workforce, a national workforce, to get out and actually deliver that work. So that's what we're doing at the Smart Energy Council, is making that argument. We've got an event coming up on the 6th of May where we've got state energy ministers, Bill Johnson from Western Australia, Dan Palakan from South Australia, Anthony Lynham from Queensland, Shane Rattenbury from the ACT, and we're hoping even premier level support from Victoria and New South Wales to really make this argument, and we'll keep you posted of our progress there. The final thing I want to say, I've probably gone way over time, is just this event this afternoon, when you come along, it's a bit different. There are 3 parts. 1, we'll do a presentation. 2, we'll break out into discussion groups where you use your camera and your microphone. We'll all talk to each other. And then 3, we're doing a speed networking thing where you'll be matched with somebody for a couple of minutes, private conversation, one-on-one, and it only goes for 2 minutes. So if they're boring, you get to move on quickly. Bring a beer, and we'd love to see you there. So thanks, Tim, for the opportunity to share that.
Thanks, John. I really appreciate hearing about the big project stuff. I think that's really exciting to your work in the so you're working at the ground level, you're working for the mum and dad installers, but you're also kind of pushing it through to the bigger projects. And so, yeah, it was really exciting to hear that part of the story. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Our next presenter, and thank you, John, Deepak Nayak from Sungrow. They are our platinum sponsor, so we thank them for their contribution, and we also just really encouraged to hear what Deepak's got to say. So thank you, Deepak. Please jump in and say hello. I think you're on mute.
Yeah. Can you hear me now, Tim?
Can hear you now. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Tim. Thanks for providing Sunrow this opportunity to come here and present ourselves in this fantastic opportunity. So should I get on with the presentation? Should I?
Yeah, so if you want to steal the screen, feel free to screen share, and
yeah, I'll do that.
I will mute myself and hide behind this.
So hope you can see the screen. Yeah, is it seen? My screen is shown there, Tim? Hello?
We're looking at your speaker notes at the moment.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'll just close that. Yeah, so I'll just get on. Okay, so is it clear now, or?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you, Tim. Thank you for this opportunity, as I mentioned earlier. And John, it was a fantastic insight which you shared with us on the industry, and particularly giving us the right motivation to get on with the job. And understanding the stimulus package, what has been provided by the government, it really gives us a hope that this industry is not going to fail very soon. Yeah. So getting on, just to give you an idea about the talk today, I'll just give you an introduction about Sandro. I'm sure Sandro does not need much of an introduction, but still it's worthwhile, approaching it once again. And then I'll just give you a small brief on the COVID action plan, more or less with the earlier presenters. I mean, the last 2 weeks, more or less is the same action plan what has been followed at Sandro as well. And last but not the least, I will just touch base on few of the advantages of Sandro products and solutions, more particularly focusing on today's scenario. So about Sandro, yes, we started our operation 23 years back in 1997. We are founded by University Professor Chow. He's still the chairman of the company, and is still a faculty, a visiting faculty in Hefei University, where it teaches power electronics. So in 2006, we expanded our operation globally. 2011 was a milestone for us when we got ourselves listed on Shenzhen Stock Exchange. So we are a public listed company now. And in 2015, we secured the #1 position, going strong even now. 2018, we opened our first offshore factory in India. Naturally, the factory, the products which we get here is coming from our Chinese factory. The Indian factory caters itself as well as the US market. And in 2019, we became the first inverter manufacturer to hit the 100 gigawatt deployment. So these are the core divisions of Sandro. As you can see, everything revolves around clean energy. That's our bread and butter. That's our core business. The PV inverter and energy storage, we are quite strong and quite present in the Australian market in particular. Floating PV, although we have a global share of, we are the #1 and we have around 33%, 1/3 of the global market share. We have come across certain inquiries locally here, but then, as you know, like Australia, we have an abundance of land, flat land for that. So nothing much happening on the floating space. We also do project development. We have done a couple of project developments in Australia as well. Then for the EV converter and the energy converter, we are more or less OEMs for other suppliers. So this has been a performance. In 2019, we deployed 17.1 gigawatt of shipment. And as I mentioned earlier, we have done 100 gigawatt plus accumulated installations. And we have been financially stable with a 40 to 44% growth annually. So in July last year, Bloomberg issued this report stating that Sandro is the #1 supplier in finance project. Basically, this is meant for utility scale projects where if the developer proposes Sandro, those projects are definite to get financed. So that's the confidence level what the market has on us. Our main focus in Sandro is the research and development. It can be seen with 40% of our personnel in the research and development team. We have invested $73 million as of 2018, because of which we hold the #1 patent in this industry with 2,000 plus accumulated patents. As you can see, this is a laboratory in Sandro, Hefei. It's been there since 2016. Our company has spent around $3 billion US dollars to set up this this laboratory. It's mainly for electromagnetic testing, in EMI testing, basically. And this is the cooperation what we have worldwide with different universities in in Australia. We work along with the University of New South Wales. We are working on a project with them about hybrid systems, where they're using our PCS, power converter systems. So this is the production capacity what we have. In Hefei, we can ship out 47 gigawatt annually. From India, we can ship out 3 gigawatts, so totally a 50 gigawatt capacity. Apart from that, we have a separate factory, Sandro Samsung SDI JV factory for energy storage systems, where we can ship out 6 gigawatt hour of energy storage. Globally, we are completely spread across all the continents. As you can see, we have the service sales, likewise in Australia, elsewhere as well. So we hold a 15% market share. These are few of the projects, the 2 gigawatt project, which is the biggest project in China, and other project, as you can see. And these are the energy storage projects, what we have done, 900 plus global projects so far, and more so. And few of the projects we have also done in Australia. So as I mentioned earlier, our focus is clean power for all. So this is getting on into the action plan for COVID. So likewise with many companies, on 10th of Feb, we received permission to open our factory. So the first week was a bit a slow start, and then gradually we recovered up to 70%. When on the 19th of Feb, we were visited by the chief executive of FI, and after that, once they were satisfied with the level of safety measures what we have taken, we started our operations with 100%. In Australia, we have been working remotely since the 16th of March. So more or less, more than 1 month now that we are working from home. But then our service team is available for any support. Even our tech team is available for any support for that matter. And yeah, our distributors hold tremendous stock, as well as we are our own warehouse in Sydney, which has helped us mitigate this particular situation now. And these are the safety measures what we have in our factory. Self-quarantine, we advise all the workers who are coming back from the long holiday in China to quarantine themselves. And then all the workers were provided with the proper safety kits, and social distancing was also put in place. So these are a few of the photographs what you can see. And yes, in terms of CSR, we have done few donations for Red Cross in China and neighboring province in China as well. Apart from that, for various organizations, we have donated sanitizers, alcohol tablets, and various other masks. And for overseas, due to the restrictions, we could only supply the masks. Yeah, we'll be there for you. Yeah, just to give you a portfolio of Sunro, we are available. I mean, we are present in all the three industry verticals, which John mentioned. Utility scale, we are doing a couple of projects on utility scale, the biggest being a 280 megawatt project, as well as the smallest one being 5 megawatt projects, where we have deployed 3 of these projects in Victoria. And in the C&I space, we have fantastic range of product, which we have introduced as of this year. The residential space, you pretty much know about these products, what we have. For the energy storage, as I mentioned earlier, we have a tie-up with Samsung, so Sunro Samsung JV. We have a separate factory for that in Hefei again, in China, where we can ship out 6 gigawatt hour of storage. So we do ship out the residential batteries and all the way up to the commercial batteries. And on the commercial side, we have done a couple of projects in Australia, 5 projects to be exact, and the biggest being a 755 kilowatt hour of battery. And in the utility scale, we are already doing a 100 megawatt, 200 megawatt hour project. Now, I wouldn't go too much into all these product line. It'll take a couple of hours, if not a day fully. So what I'm going to do is just brief you on residential and commercial products, and more so just talking about the advantages which are relevant to today's situation. So naturally, there are many other advantages on these products, which I'm not going to touch today. So on the residential PV, as you all might be knowing, these were the product line which were available as of last year. That's the 2 kilowatt, 2.5 kilowatt, 3 kilowatt, up to 8 kilowatt single phase inverters. So we have now extended these particular product range to a premium product range. So whatever you'll be getting it from probably from next month onwards from our distributors, these are the products you'll see. So there are various advantages which I'll be talking about. And similarly on the hybrid inverter, this is a very popular inverter for us, SH5K-20, which you might have all might have used it some other time. So we have now advanced this to SH5K-30 in 2020. Even this inverter will be available from next month with our distributors. The main advantage is we have now got an inbuilt DC isolator, which, as you all know, reduces the installation time, increases the safety level of the whole install, because 70 to 80% of any system failure comes out from these external DC isolators. So now we have it inbuilt, and that's going to be the latest advantage. We also have included 24 hours monitoring. Our earlier generation couldn't monitor the product at night time, but now we have included an internal power supply, which is going to give you a 24 hours monitoring through our Isola Cloud app or the website. We have also included the quick arc fault circuit interrupter feature. This is specifically for premium range, not for the hybrid. So this is a fantastic feature because it's a safety feature. On the DC side, if there is any arc, be it on the solar panels, be it on the cable side, or on the isolators, a rooftop isolator for that, since we have an inbuilt isolator in this range. So our inverter can detect it, and it'll trip the whole circuit. And of course, it'll give you the alarm as well. Then we have the new feature, frequency shifting technology under off-grid situation. So, I mean, of course, I've shown here Sunro inverter, but this could be any third-party inverter. So if you're installing our SH5K-30, the hybrid inverter, into an existing installation, and say in the off-grid condition for the emergency power supply, our battery is fully charged. At that time, this inverter, our inverter, will signal the third-party inverter, or for that matter, Sunro inverter, to reduce the output. Then we have also included the built-in ATS, automatic transfer switch, and seamless transition into our SH5K-30. What does that mean is a reduction of 1.5 to 2 hours of installation for you guys, and the complicated circuitry which comes with an external EPS box. This is a fantastic feature what we have added, as well as the earlier SH5K-20 had a 20 millisecond of transition time. So which has been reduced now to 20 milliseconds. Earlier it was 5 seconds, so now it is 20 milliseconds. So as good as UPS functionality inbuilt. Then, as you all know, I mean, this was even available in an earlier series. The commissioning of Sunro inverters is quite easy. Our service team says that it takes less than a minute to commission basically the preloaded DNSP parameters, and as well as auto detect feature of the batteries in SH5K-30 or 20 makes it quite easy to commission. Then with regards to the remote parameter setting and online firmware upgrading remotely, that's the added advantage in today's situation, where you don't have to go to the site to do these settings. You can do it remotely from your workplace, or for now, maybe from your home. Coming to the C&I inverters, we have introduced these inverters to the market this year, 30 kilowatt, 50 kilowatt, and the biggest inverter which is available in the market currently, 110 kilowatt inverter. So of course, we do have a 250 kilowatt inverter, which you might have seen in the earlier slides. That's mainly for the utility scale. But for the commercial and industrial, the biggest inverter in the market now is 110 kilowatt, which is Sunro inverter. It has various advantages. I'm not going to get into details of that. As I mentioned earlier, it has multiple trackers, string level monitoring, and so forth. These inverters have already been used in Australia. It has already been installed, tried and tested, and we are coming up with a big rollout soon. So like with our residential inverters, we have included the isolators, DC isolators inbuilt into the inverters, saving you the installation time. Apart from that, it is quite flexible to install. You can install it horizontally up to 170 degree or vertically. So you can install it on the rooftop itself. You don't have to draw a cable all the way down to the electrical room, if that helps you. And this is another feature what we included. Our inverters, the C&I inverters, specifically 3050 and 110, comes with a standard DC connector cover. So as you all know, anything above 600 volts on the DC side, it there is a regulation that you need to put a cage on it. So this really avoids you to go for an external cage because the DC cables are not accessible. Then we have the export limit and parameter setting on our Isola Cloud app using the logger or the dongle. So this again avoids any external hardware to be installed for export limiting. And the other feature what we have also included is that in case some project of yours, a megawatt project for that matter, does not require string level monitoring, then we can use combiner boxes to reduce the cable runs, DC cable runs for you. Then this is another feature, IV scanning and string level diagnosis. I have to emphasize that it is free. There is no fee for the lifetime of the project. It's a fantastic feature by itself because you can diagnose on the string level as to what's happening. And then like with the residential inverter, the remote parameter setting and firmware upgrading is a key feature in all the range. Of course, I have to emphasize here that you will require an internet connection for the inverter. Of course, we have a local support. We have a strong team here of around 20 people. We have tech support who can provide you the right consultancy system design. Mainly, I think you will be requiring it for commercial projects, be it the energy storage or the inverters. And then we can give you the necessary trainings as well as an organization. And we have a fantastic after sales service and support. Our local warehouse in Sydney, not in Pendle Hill, to be exact, where we have a sufficient stock of the inverters. Yeah, I think that's about it for me.
Fantastic. Thanks, Deepak, for that.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
Really appreciated your presentation from Sungrow. So get the logo up there so people can see it. And thank you. Our next presentation, actually what I'm going to do is run, we've got a video from Sungrow. So first, and then I'm going to be presenting after that.
Tim, there is no audio.
Yep. Oh, God.
That's good.
I'm always amazed when you see those massive installations of solar panels across the planet, how exciting it is to see just how big some of those installations can get. So it's really very, very impressive. Before I start my presentation, I just wanted to talk about where some of the donations that our partners have given us. So we're going to be donating over $5,000 to hospitals across Australia. So that's just a really exciting thing to be able to do, thanks to the support of our partners in these events, that we're going to be able to make some donations across all the hospitals across our country, which we're going to be focusing on the ones who've specifically been working on COVID areas. So it's going to be great to be able to support that. And now my presentation. I'm going to be talking about solar strategies. So basically giving you some sales strategies and some marketing strategies that you can roll out to sell solar and to encourage your business, and to perhaps have a bit of a rethink about how we're doing business in this time. So my name's Tim McVeigh. I am this digital marketing specialist for One Stop Warehouse, and I've worked with leading blue chip companies and startups in both design, marketing, advertising, and now more so in social media. So over the last few weeks, we have had myself talk about social media more generally. We've had Andy Foote, who was a LinkedIn specialist. We've had Cara, who talks about business psychology and business marketing and how to connect with customers. And we've had Rick, who basically talked about how to set up a complete marketing process and strategy using social media. So it's been interesting, and of course we're looking forward to hearing Ron McDermott today give us some more insights into his area of expertise. It's been some good news. I've been following just Google Trends and Google searches on where the market's going. So that blue line represents searches for solar panels, the red line for home solar, and the yellow line for install solar. So they're just the search terms that I've been tracking. As you can see, solar panels is rapidly moving upwards. So that's an exciting trend to see. And it's a good way to track the mind of your consumer when you're if you're in the business. Go to this Google Trends area, pick a keyword, and it just gives you a sense of what Australia's searching. So all these figures are based in Australia over the last 90 days. We've got another one for solar power and the search term electricity. So as you can see, electricity is ramping up. Solar power is ramping up towards the end there, towards the 19th. It's heading up again. So it just tells me that the market's starting to think more about solar, and that's a good sign for all of us. So when we talk about these 5 solar strategies, I'm actually going to give you 2 more, because I wanted to focus on the 7 Ps. When I started in marketing, there were 4 Ps. Now there are 7 Ps. So price, promotion, people, physical environment, the space, which is normally like how you walk into a store and what that feels like. The process. What is the process to sell into your product into people, and your actual product? How do you make that appealing and attractive to your market and place? Where do you sell it? So I'm going to build my talk around these 7 areas, and hopefully we can see how social fits into them and how our business can be sharpened by those 7 Ps. The first one is price. So when we talk about price, it's always that niggly thing that we get with the market. But do we set it too high? Do we set it too low? What is a comfortable price? So I'm going to talk a little bit about pricing strategy for you. The Economist magazine did an interesting experiment. They ran a web-only subscription for $59, or you could buy a print-only subscription for $125, or you could buy a web and print subscription for the same price for $125. Now, in the chat bar, why don't you put a 1, a 2, or a 3, and tell me which ones you would purchase if you had that choice. We're going to get anyone putting a number in the side there. Peter's going to buy a 1, so he just wants to spend $59. He's going the lowest price. Okay, we'll get to see what the results were. Based on some research, basically 16% would buy the $59. The the $125, 84% chose that when they had 3 choices of pricing. But interestingly, when they didn't have that fake price, that useless price really, and they only had a choice of one or the other, 68% went for the cheaper option. So obviously by having that third option there, it pushed more people to decide on the higher price point. So it's just one of those interesting psychological things that happens with pricing structures, that you can often push people towards a price that is obviously more profitable just by changing the way the options work in that pricing decision. And so that's why we often see this kind of thing on websites, this basic, standard and premium. So when you're seeing that, you're obviously seeing a basic price of $29. That's easy. The standard price, which is actually pitched as the obvious choice, it's the middle choice, it's made bigger, is then conflicted by the $169 choice, which the marketer is telling us is more popular. So there's that it creates a conundrum in the mind of the consumer to say, well, do I actually go with what everybody else thinks is a good deal and spend the $169, or do I feel safer on the $89 as the marketer? They're probably wanting that, but we've already discounted that $29 basic thing just by the way this graphic is presented. So think about that when you're doing your pricing, when you're building out your look of your sales brochures and your sales ticketing. Is there a way to make the pricing more attractive? Perhaps put an upsell in that structure there. Place, the second P. That is George Street, and it's very empty at the moment. So let's assume that place isn't in the retail space, that this is the place we're marketing to. And so the best part of that, of seeing this market, is that, one, there's an awful lot of roofs, and I don't see many solar panels on many of them at all. So that tells me that there is a big marketplace out there for our products, and we need to find a way to reach those people, because that's where they are. They're going to be in this space here now. They're at home, they're sitting in front of their computers, they're sitting in front of their telephones. And so we want to sell, we need to find a place, and the place is in people's homes. So when we do that, there's things like Zoom. This is a little app that I actually quite I recommend. It's called whereby.io. Essentially, if you want someone to join, they basically have a free room that you can register. So basically, it's just a URL, and 4 people can join that room. So all you need to do is take that URL for your room, and then you can email it, you can text it. There's a web app for this, and so essentially, if you wanted to talk to your customers quickly and easily, rather than going the Zoom appointment and the booking, I always find Zoom a little bit daunting to get into. It would be really good if you just use this, because you can send a URL out and instantly be face to face with your customers. So I recommend that as a simpler solution to talking to your customers, to getting them upfront and in your face. Product. Product. You want to define your product's goals. So spend some time at the moment to work out what your product is. Is it solar panels? Is it the equipment, or is it a service? Is it the fact that you're doing the installation and the way you do your installations is different and defined and separate from your competitors? So spend some time to define what your product is and who your product is. With smaller businesses, often you're the product and you're selling your services. And so if you are the product, how are you going to present yourself to your consumers most effectively, to your customers most effectively? So think about that, especially when we're now in this space where we're doing lots of digital, we're doing lots of more on-camera stuff. Get used to talking on camera, get used to presenting in a webinar, this kind of experience. So, which is why I recommend going to that networking event with the Smart Energy Council today. It's another opportunity to test that muscle and get those skills happening. Bundle your product solutions. There's a little script here I've written for a target customer who has a product brand. Our product or brand is a marketing category that has a key benefit, that some reason to buy. If you use that little pattern there, it's quite easy to kind of define what your product solution is, who you are. So, for example, for homeowners who want a safe installation while at home, my solar business is has a trained and tested installer policy that is 2-man per site install system. Unlike my competitors who offer complex choices, we have a solar home equip, which is a concept I sort of dreamed up of this is how we do our installations, and it's tried and tested. So just by thinking about those sort of elements within your sales statement, you might actually be able to give something that is easily digested to your consumers, and therefore sets you apart from your competition. So yeah, it's a case of solving your customers' problems and bundling those decisions that your customer is going to make about you, and making those decisions easy. Letting your marketing and your message solve their problems. So we'll spend time creating well-designed packages that fit those specific needs, and help illustrate a buying vision. So one of the things is that if you can set in your customer's mind a reason to buy that goes beyond price and product and place, but actually solves an end problem, you often will get closer to the sale and closing that sale, because you've given them a vision in their mind of what it is they're getting. So if they can see that solar system on their roof, shining beautifully and producing cheap electricity for them, and they can sort of experience that feeling of the end product even before they're purchased, they're more likely to feel compelled to go along with the decision to say yes to the purchase. Bundle the future. Now's a great time to package what it is you do, and to look ahead and go, okay, with hybrid inverters and batteries and virtual power plants are where the industry's heading now. Maybe I should spend some time and build packages of those products that help me sell those future casting, that future sense of where my industry is going into the consumer's mind now. So that you might not be selling a battery today, but if you put in a hybrid inverter, you've set the pathway so that you've got a sale later down the track for a battery or that kind of system. So if you start to break down your product decisions in a way that can sell onto your consumers, I think that's going to help sustain a future for your business. Take away the pain points. Solar, and I'm coming from a very consumer-based area, not from an expert in solar. The more I understand where the simplicity of the systems lie, I think that's where the pain points move away, so that I'm not feeling as if oh, this is all just too hard. These guys have actually got a solution that it seems easy and that you're going to make it happen. And so if you can walk me through that easily, that's great. Sell me long-term security. Sell me the fact that this is going to be here for a long time and making an investment in my home, and that investment is going to reap its rewards both through cheaper electricity, through something that'll last and be good for my home. So use this time to future-proof your business. Look at the systems and the things that you're telling, and use this time to make your business more secure, because you've got time to think about how you're going to deliver your messaging to your customer. So that's where mastering your story comes in. Build your story, make yourself unique in that marketplace, tell something and solve a problem that the next guy isn't solving. Don't just, I guess, work on price. Promotion. I'm going to talk mostly about Facebook, a little bit of Instagram at this stage, but there's lots of ways of promoting your product. With Facebook, there's a couple of campaign types. One is cold traffic. That's where you're going for kind of any person with a face who might slightly be interested in solar. And so you're casting a very wide net to kind of get a sense of those people. And then a remarketing campaign. So once you've kind of got some engagement with your content with that wider audience, you remarket to them, and then you move them into a sales funnel. You move them through steps of understanding about your business. So you start off with awareness, where they get to know your name, your brand, your service, your personality, all the things that define you as a company. Then you move them into the consideration phase, the point where they're thinking about perhaps that you are the person to install their solar. You are the company that they want to move along with, because you've already moved them from awareness into that, yeah, I'd really like solar phase. And then you move them into a conversion funnel, so that you're actually closing the sale. Now that can be as simple as a sales call, or it can be as complex as a sign-up package through the internet. So there's lots of ways of doing that conversion, but it always comes down to closing that sale. This is a little video. This is a service that Facebook runs for all advertising on its platform. You can go to Facebook ads. I think it's Facebook ads library. And it will, if you look up solar, you can do a search, and then you can pick up anyone who's in your industry, and it can be in Australia or globally, who's running ads in your space. I searched under solar. You can see all their ads, you can see what they're doing, and you can get a sense of what people in your industry are doing. So I really recommend, if you haven't done a lot of Facebook advertising, that's a good place to start, to get a sense of the kind of content that other companies are producing, and in that production, what that looks like. Where are we to here? A strategy I really recommend is cast a wide net using video. So if you can produce a nice video, doesn't have to be long, that talks about your product, your service, your business, that is slightly engaging, put a little bit of money on that, push that out to a wider audience. Anybody who watches that video for more than 50% of the time is probably vaguely interested in what you've got to tell them. So you can target them for more than 50, for 80. You know, there's percentages of view time that Facebook gives you of your videos, and then you can remarket to those people. So that's a good way to kind of start wide and then narrow down the people who appear to be engaging with your content. So you start with that video thing, and then you can do more remarketing on the people who then engage with the content that remarketed the video thing. So you might start them on a lead ad kind of thing, which is, if you're interested in solar, just give me your details and we'll get back to you. And so Facebook gives you these tools so that you can basically build a lead, get the details and start the journey. Or you can push them to a landing page where you're pushing them to give me your details there, and then you're getting some traffic to that page, and then you can tell your story a little bit more widely than you can on this lead ad. But there's ways of using these tools to essentially work out where your customers are in that that cycle and that process of understanding who you are, and then guiding them into the space that you want them to be. Use your words. Now is a great time to just sit with a piece of paper and a pen and spend some time defining your copy, defining those little bullet points of those gems of information that might be about your company. So join thousands of happy customers who are saving on their electricity bill today because they joined the solar revolution. Why don't you dial, there's your call to action, and be the next big saver? Or remember the time you didn't have to pay attention to your power bill? Get that feeling again. Just little ways of writing something about you that make your company different. Spend this time now to just jot and quietly get outside in the sunshine and write some notes about what makes your business different, and then see if you can't craft the language of that into something that is attractive and might make people click. It's stuff like that that pushes to a landing page that you said, you know, call to action, now click the link, now go to this page, now read this, now learn some more, now download a document. There's lots of ways of getting the next little call to action and moving people along that chain. I really recommend testing copy points like this. You can put a couple of, like put $20, split it by $10, put it out to a few hundred people and see which one got the most clicks. Facebook does A/B testing, so you can literally put both ads out. They'll put it to similar audiences, but then you'll get a sense of which ad was more attractive, which got the most reaction, and then you can let one fade away and then perhaps put more money onto the ad that's working for you. Use Clever. It's not hard to do something that gets a bit of attention. This is America.
No,
Young
this
man
is
just
Australia,
opened a beer
babe.
bottle using his tape measure. This is America.
No, this is Australia, babe.
If you put that on Facebook, that's going to get lots of likes. That's going to get lots of engagement. Or if you do something like that, just something that engages people about your business, that shows a bit of personality, a bit of clever. It's not necessarily selling, but it is getting eyeballs and it's getting recognition. So use Clever. Try and think outside the box. Don't necessarily be we sell panels or we sell solar. Use something that might set you guys apart. And when you do, that's when you get recognised and noticed. I said this last time, make sure you've got your Facebook pixel installed on your website, which is a little piece of code that goes into the header. Facebook uses that to track people in and out of your website, lets Facebook know that they're interested in you. It helps in that remarketing. It also helps when they go to other pages, your ads can appear in front of them, and because they've shown some interest in your website. Leverage Instagram stories. Instagram stories are those little videos, clips, stickers, sort of creative stuff that you can do. Creative stuff that you can do on your phone. Use them. They only last 24 hours. They're sort of a fun thing to kind of do on a constant basis. So yeah, just make sure that you kind of use the tools that Facebook and the other thing is that this, what you can do on Instagram can also feed into your Facebook stories. So that makes life a little more interesting. The other thing is that Instagram has stores now. So instead of selling clothing, you could put product and panels and you know, take a nice shot of one of your installations and say, you could have a shot like that and then click on the button and it would take you to a store page that you've set up. So use those tools that are in there to push sales. People, the next P. It's really important, I think, at this time, especially when people aren't working in the office. It's probably a good time to start aligning your sales and your marketing. If you've got a sales team and a marketing team, see how often they get together and work together to drive the message. That it isn't just a message that comes out of marketing. It's not just a message that is then translated by sales. That the more you can unite your people, and also finance, and also Fred in the warehouse, and also Sally in the copy room, the more you can unite your staff around your brand and what it represents and how it represents itself as a company, I think the more united a front you can have. And so I think that's really important now, where we're not in offices together, to work out ways to unite your people and unite your staff. Get real. Let your people create stories. Everyone's going through this COVID thing. Everyone's having a different way of coping and experiencing it. So use that to get a story from your people. So this isn't my campaign, but we're going to borrow it because I think it's very clever. It's just allowing someone to take a nice photo and tell a one-paragraph story about how they're experiencing life at the moment, and open that up and open the door for your people to tell their story and be real. It puts real faces in front of your company. It's not just a logo, it's not just a price or a product or a place, it's people. And at the moment, I really think that it's people that are important at the moment. While I say that, use personas as well. Think about your customers as the ideal customer. How are you going to reach that ideal person and tell your story that really connects with them? So that persona can turn into a real person, or it can turn into 100,000 real people that all seem to collect around your message because you've connected with a certain type of person. And that's really what these personas are there for. Physical environment, the next P. There is no physical environment now. It used to be a showroom. It might have been an office. It could have been a home. Well, now it's a home. It could have been your truck, but mostly it's going to be a computer screen. So it's all a website. Make sure your website tells your story. Spend the time to craft the pages, to craft the messaging, to craft how people engage and connect and touch the buttons and follow their way through. There's a program called Hotjar. It's not very expensive to use. You can use that. It's a bit like that pixel tracking code. You can put that inside your website, and Hotjar will actually watch people's usage of your page. They'll track where their mouse goes, what they click on, what they hover on. So you can use that to research how people are engaging with your website. It's nothing nefarious about it. It doesn't track them personally. All it does is keep a record of how the pages are being worked. And it's really useful as a marketer to see, is everyone scrolling to the bottom line page, or they only get halfway and they get bored and they go away? And really the button, the thing that I wanted them to click, was at the bottom of the page, and they're not getting there. And that's why you're not getting the sale. So use a software like Hotjar to do that. The last of the P's is process. This is the process apparently for being a social media manager. There's lots of steps in that. Whatever your business is, it's got processes, it's got sticking points, it's got flows of customer engagement and customer reaction and ways customers connect with you. That's changed a lot now. That's changed a lot because of where we're at. But spend time to look at your processes, to look at your paperwork. How your customers read your invoice? Can you make that clearer? Can you simplify the language? Can you tell a story that makes getting a bill a little less painful, because they see what they're getting when they see that bill? They see the value in it. So look at those things and explore how you can change those processes. Maybe it's just your communication between the warehouse and the back office, or the sales and the marketing, or the customer and call centers. You know, whatever you're using to get those communication channels open and clear, spend time to work on those. They were the 7 P's of marketing, but I'm going to give you 4 more P's. Persevere, be positive, be patient. This is going to be a hard time for all of us in business. Hard time just with dealing with people and with technology. So be patient and be passionate about your business. And so we thank you for your passion for solar energy and the solar energy space. Lastly, it would be remiss of me not to ask you to reach into your pocket, pull out your phone and follow us on Facebook, like us on Instagram. And if you do, we're going to be tracking our follows and our likes up until Monday. And on Monday, we'll do a little video draw of the new likes and follows that we get, hopefully from this event. And there's a $50 gift voucher in there if you like and follow our page. So thank you for that. That was my presentation. And I was going to get to a 5 minutes over, sorry. Welcome now to the next part is Peter Novick from Suntech. Peter, why don't you head on in?
Yep, thanks, Tim. Thanks to One Stop Warehouse as well for the introduction and great presentation, Tim. I found it pretty valuable.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Just got a quick 10-minute presentation here, guys, so just bear with me. We've seen a pretty turbulent year, or at least start to the year, and I think globally we're seeing havocs to demand. And, you know, obviously Australia's start to the year, we had bushfire season and sort of put those fires out and headed straight into COVID-19. So it's been a funny, odd year for us, but we're battling through it and evolving to the changes. So, you know, what we're seeing and what I'm hearing in the marketplace, and I think John mentioned this earlier before, that, you know, we've had to adapt to our new world. We're spending more time with the family, we're working from home, we're schooling from home, and, you know, effectively it's leading to larger energy bills. Well, effectively it is for myself. So it is a good time to go solar. And I think, you know, conveying that message to the consumers is important. So, you know, I think we'll start seeing a round of bills hitting people quite soon, whether you buy monthly or tri-monthly, and you know, it's a real good time to sort of enforce and promote the solar message out there. So I think the job losses have stabilised. I think people confidence levels are returning. So, you know, yes, we're still in some form of restriction and may be for a long time. I think the message and the positive message of what we're doing needs to get out there. And I think John said it more eloquently than me. Yes, there are still grants out there, so I think that's important. The government did announce a PV stimulus package, which John covered more briefly. So it is still a great time to go solar. The way we do business has changed. You know, gone are the face-to-face selling, and the cold calling has changed. So, you know, using platforms to engage with your customers is important. So I think, you know, the more creative you can be, you still can give a personalised experience to selling solar. So I think those companies and installers out there that are using a more personable approach, I find are the ones that do it better. So again, with installations, we've had to change the way we do those. I think the more consideration you can put into your installation with additional PPE, hand sanitizer, exhibiting social distancing, and having some sort of policy around that where you can assure the customer that you are exhibiting this, just increases confidence. So I've heard and read a few stories where more business has been generated as a result of a real strict policy on the way one installed. So it's just creating a positive experience to a consumer in a time that, you know, generally a lot of consumers are concerned, especially the elderly customers, as John mentioned previously. Look, just a quick update on what's happening in the Chinese market. So for pretty much the first quarter from Chinese New Year, we had reduced capacity and production as China itself was fighting the coronavirus, and what that meant was, you know, reduced capacity. But for the best part, China is at full capacity, so we are seeing supply chains being quite healthy. But on the back of that, China itself has announced some stimulus packages in the supply of solar into their industry. And as you can see by this graph, there's 15.7 gigawatts to be installed by mid-year. So we are seeing downward demand globally in Europe, America, and obviously Australia. But I think the industry in China is hoping that that may be offset with what's happening in China, and then obviously Southeast Asia, Vietnam, demand is going through the roof. So I don't think there's going to be a shortage of supply, but I'm also not expecting there to be a great amount of oversupply. There might be a little, but there are good stimulus packages in place in China. Obviously, the turbulent dollar over the last couple of months, it's good that it's made a bit of a recovery, and it did make it quickly, but it's still not at the levels pre-COVID-19. So we're hoping there's some sort of stabilisation, because obviously the fluctuation does hurt ability to buy and buy with confidence, so which could exacerbate supply issues as well. Okay, a little bit of a brief history of who we are and who Suntech is, if you're not aware. Suntech has been in the industry for 20 years. We were one of the first Chinese PV manufacturers out there. Our origins do start in Australia. We were founded by two professors from the University of New South Wales, and obviously went to China to be encouraged to manufacture panels ex-China after exacerbating all our resources to manufacture panels in Australia. So we have been supplying and manufacturing panels for 20 years, and we have data on panels installed over those 20 years. We've got 21 gigawatts accumulated, 500 patents, and over 1,500 partners across the world. It's a bit of a milestones in regards to founded in 2001, 2005, we were listed on the New York Stock Exchange. 2007, most importantly, we opened the Australian office, and we've had a continued presence since. 2009, 2011, we became the largest manufacturer globally. I think our rated capacity back then was 2.4 gigawatts. So the industry has changed significantly. Now we're approximately around 4.5 gigawatts. manufacturing capabilities. In 2014, we were acquired by Shunfeng Clean Energy. They bought a number of renewable companies within the industry, from LED manufacturing, electric vehicle manufacturing, to some large European EPCs, Medio Control, Suntech, and a few other cell and ingot manufacturers. So we're quite a diverse company. Suntech is just part of the bigger picture there. 2017 and 18, we saw a very strong recovery and good sales, culminating into 300 megawatts into the Australian market. Last year, we achieved 21 gigawatts, and 2020, the story continues. Just a little snapshot of annual revenue over the last 5 years. It seems we're coming strongly and growing. Our debt to asset liability ratio, quite manageable in our opinion, where it's quite normal within the industry to be fluctuating at levels well above 50 to 60. Just a brief summary on bankability and financial strength of the Suntech Group, and recently awarded EUPD top brand for the Australian market 2019, which we are hoping to also get for 2020. Mid last year, Munich Re, one of the largest insurers in Europe, basically gave us an award for having one of the lowest warranty claim rates within the industry over a 20-year period, which we pride ourselves on. It's been one of our strong focuses over the last 4 or 5 years to not expand, but to focus more on quality, performance, and reliability. And that sort of led into one of our strong motivations in heading towards VDE certification. Sorry, jumped a bit here. So we're also quite proud of making top performer in DNV-GL. And just to give you a synapse of some of the testing we do, we've always prided ourselves on extensive testing and raising beyond those bar. So, you know, most of our tests are conducted at a higher level than the IEC standard. So, you know, the PID testing is all above IEC standard. And with that higher testing, we went and formulated our VDE, which gives us the premise of higher testing. So we're one of few panel brands globally to carry VDE. And what VDE basically in a nutshell is a third-party auditing scheme that regularly monitors our factories and our production and our test results to ensure that the product we manufacture, the product on the data sheet is equal. So, you know, instead of just the standard IEC test, which is a one-off test, the VDE is an ongoing life cycle test. So you can be assured, irrespective of the model you're receiving from Suntech, that panel you're receiving is as per data sheet. Additional to that, we're also tested for a higher pass-fail rate for degradation, also more load testing, more robustness in termination tests. So effectively, we're routinely audited in regards to VDE. And I believe it's a quarterly check on all our sites. And if we don't pass, effectively, we do lose our VDE. So that VDE and that high reliability testing extends to our BOM, our balance of materials. So it's not just in the cell and the module itself, but it's in, you know, whether it's the backing sheet or the terminals or the glass or what have you. So it does assure that we are offering high materials within our panels, and our tolerance towards what's acceptable and what is IEC standard varies. So obviously here we've got a line of what's accepted within the industry, but what's accepted within a Suntech definition is quite higher in regards to what's acceptable on a back sheet, for example. We've extended that to our junction boxes and a rating of IP68. So we have what we call an IEC pass we also have what we call Suntec Quality Pass within our organisation, which strives for higher durability. So from our perspective, reducing warranty, reducing liability leads to a more profitable business. So we like to see low failures, we like to see low warranty claims, because we do operate in a low margin business. So we're assuring ourselves in the future with less liability by delivering as high quality product as we can into the Australian market. Just a little snapshot of some of the testing we undertake internally. We do have a very large PV lab in China. It is recognised and certified by the leading testing authorities globally, such as UL and VDE. And we actually do conduct tests not only on our products, IEC tests on our products, but we also test other manufacturers' products, and it's a highly recognised and accredited laboratory. So having a strong laboratory footprint at our factory allows us to do, high testing and high capabilities in ensuring we deliver quality product. Australian background and commitment. So we're quite proud of our Australian story. We think it's unique from a Chinese manufacturing perspective. Both Dr. Shi and Martin Green, the founders of Suntec, or founding fathers, are no longer with the company, but effectively their experience and their influence, especially within the University of New South Wales, is a unique story, and we tell with pride. To this day, we're still funding the UNSW, and we do run scholarship programs with the UNSW, so we see ourselves giving back to the Australian market. The head office in Australia is in Sydney. We were set up in 2007, and we've had a continuous footprint here in the Australian market. We have local warranty support, local engineering support, sales and marketing support, local finance. Mentioned the scholarship programs and the continued funding. So we've invested over 30 million US in programs with the UNSW, Monash University and the Australian National University. We also have a scholarship program and testing lab set up at the UNSW in financial support. Our Australian commitment extends in regards to our local marketing. So we devised our own marketing outside of China to focus more on the Australian market, to have a more Australian feel, and to reach the Australian consumer. Our website too reflects that. It's a more Western feel as opposed to what some of our partners can say that sort of a Chinese marketing aspect is very different to a Western aspect. So it's a local team building that. We offer technical support to the industry, to installers, whether it's pre-feasibility, CAD drawings, energy analysis. There's some examples of what we've done for the industry, 3D CAD modelling or large scale. We've done it all, so we've got quite a sophisticated team of engineers that can help and assist you, and we do that for all our partners. Local warranty support, so Monday to Friday, whether it's done online or via the phone, we've got a local team in Sydney that can help you. It is an easy warranty process, and it's a very quick turnaround time. Mind you, our warranties are quite low, but it can be speedy. So thanks. Thanks for the opportunity, guys. I'm happy to address any questions, and thank you, Tim, and thank you, One Stop.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks for your presentation. If you do have any questions, make sure you do put them in the sidebar. There's actually a question room as well as the chat room. So it'd be great to put the questions where the questions should go. Let me check that while I'm here. It's very empty at the moment. Thanks, Peter. It's really great to learn a little bit more about the Suntech experience in Australia and overseas. Our next little spot is a video from Anti Solar. So we're just going to run that. They made a contribution to all of this, but didn't particularly want to present. So this is their story told by a video. So I'm just going to make sure that I've got my sound settings on the right thing, and then hopefully the sound will start. Well, that was exciting. Thank you for that, Anto-Solar. We're just going to have a little panel discussion. So if you're one of our panelists, feel free to turn your camera on so we can see you. This is just a chance to I guess, get to know us a bit more as people, and just to find out how you're coping. Are you working from home? Are you going back and forth to the office? What's your experience of this COVID crisis like at the moment? So I might start off with Deepak and get a sense of what your life is like under COVID, if you're there. Is anyone else there? Peter?
Michael is there.
Okay, sorry, is the spotlight on me? That's why. Do you want to cancel that spotlight?
It should be
Thank
right
you.
now.
Michael, are you there?
Yeah, thanks, Tim.
So what's your life like under COVID at the moment?
Well, as it is for everyone, it's very different. I find that you know, with a couple of teenagers at home doing homeschooling here in Melbourne as well, it gets very busy at a few specific points during the day in the kitchen. It can also get quite dramatic as we shuffle from room to room at different times with all the home-based learning and the online stuff. But I've got to say, from my perspective, from a business perspective, it's interesting because there seems to be less distraction. So in some ways, we're having more meaningful discussions and achieving quite a lot that otherwise sometimes you get distracted from in the cut and thrust of the office environment. So it's a brave new world, but there's been some positives as well. But I'm still looking forward to being able to get out and go to a cafe or a pub or a live venue at some stage, hopefully in the not too distant future, that's for sure.
Yeah, I have to admit, I got to go to One Stop Warehouse this week for the first time in a month. So, and it was, I think, the first time I'd actually driven a car in a month. So that just felt odd, just getting into a vehicle and going. So it's amazing, just how quickly we can adapt to these kind of changes, but also just how dramatically it has affected us. Is there anyone else there? Because I can't actually see who's in the room. So if anyone else wants to share their experience, that'd be lovely. Otherwise, we can move on.
Ron is there.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to
Ron.
contribute, Tim.
Lovely. So how's your experience?
Well, I have a stay-at-home experience. I'm also allowed to leave the house from time to time to look after my elderly mother. It gives me an excuse to get to the shops and a few other things. But one thing that I'm finding is that I'm on the phone. I've been on the phone more than at any other time in my entire career. It's far less, far fewer, indeed, no face-to-face meetings, but a lot more customer contact time. So I'm feeling like I'm working like on productivity steroids at the present time, purely because of my captive audience.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Ron, I'm going to move on just because we are already running behind. Our next speaker is Michael from Canadian Solar. So I'm going to open the room to him, and I'm going to step away and just thank you for your presentation, Michael.
Thanks, Tim. Good to be with everyone. We relish these opportunities for connection at the moment. So yeah, it's great. And thanks to One Stop for facilitating this. Look, today I just want to give a brief update on what's been happening with Canadian Solar from the COVID perspective, but also just in terms of product development and things that are happening. So I'll just launch into a brief presentation. If I just take over the screen here, I'm sure I can make this happen. Here we go. Hopefully this will come up in a moment. Are we seeing that?
Perfect.
Yep, you can see my screen. Terrific. Okay, so for those who aren't familiar with Canadian, just to give you a quick snapshot. So we've been around for 18, nearly 19 years. We obviously started off in Canada. Most of our manufacturing these days is out of China, although we do operate a number of manufacturing plants globally, which I cover on this next slide here. So you can see whilst China is our main manufacturing base, we're also active in Vietnam, Thailand, still in Canada as well, and in South America, in Brazil. So we have quite a diversified manufacturing base, which actually helped us out during the COVID crisis in China at the start of the year. We're also very active in the large-scale utility solar plant development, which I'll touch on in a moment, particularly in Australia And just to give you some perspective on that, to Australia last year, we shipped pretty well close to 1 gigawatt of PV modules. So that was a record for us and something we're proud of. The point with, we're not saying this just to gloat, the thing, I guess, with the utility success that we've had is that it also is something we believe is important, or should be important, in the residential and C&I space. I mean, there's a lot of due diligence that goes on when investors, banks, developers, constructors look at who they partner with for those utility scale farms. So they almost forensically, I think, well, from a bank perspective, it probably is almost forensically go through the companies that are supplying products into those things to make sure they're bankable and going to be around for the life of the plant. So having been successful there, we believe that's a good thing that we can reflect back to our C&I and also residential customers as well, to give them some comfort around who they're dealing with and the sort of longevity and bankability that they have. I should also point out that in Australia we have in excess of 50 people, so that's across everything from engineering support, sales people, operations, marketing. So we have a really strong team out here and have had for, I think, in excess of 8 years. So we're as close as the phone or a Zoom meeting if you need any support, but talk to your one-stop account manager or sales manager, and we'd be happy to engage if you haven't touched base with us before or want to know more about Canadian. So just to touch on the impacts of COVID-19 from our perspective, I'm happy to say that currently, or since mid-March, we're back at 100% production. And that wasn't despite some challenges. I mean, we're fortunate, as I was mentioning before, we have a diversified manufacturing base. So whilst we may not have been able to access some of our regular supply chain components, maybe in China, we have other certified suppliers in other countries. So we've had the ability to ship from either different locations for manufacturing supplies, or indeed use other factories to supply our local market here. So in reality, we didn't really see a major impact in the Australian market, which is great, and ongoing we won't see. We're fortunate that we had a lot of stock in our warehouses. We have local warehousing here as well. So we could ensure that our distribution partners, such as One Stop, didn't really see any bumps in terms of supply. There are a few other challenges that COVID has placed, I guess, for us as a Chinese manufacturer, ostensibly, and that's shipping times. Shipping times have increased. Also air freight as well, and you sort of think, well, how does air freight impact? But that impacts on things like documents in terms of bills of lading and things like that have to be produced as part of the supply process and those sort of things. So we've seen a few increased times and the odd situation where things haven't presented as quickly as we would have liked. But again, largely we understand that, so we're allowing more time for these sort of things. So things are moving in the right direction there. And as I think Peter and a few others have mentioned, the exchange rate has been obviously a major challenge for all offshore manufacturers that are supplying into the Australian market. I guess the other great thing there is that with a strong partner such as One Stop, they're very adept and used to handling foreign exchange. So they do things like have a forward hedge in place, which tends to cushion a lot of the customers, and that's why it's great to have a relationship with a great distributor from the impacts of the fluctuating currency rate. I mean, we've seen it bouncing around anywhere from 70 down to 58 cents in recent months. So that's incredibly challenging for the market to handle those sort of price changes. But I think we're fortunate in that that's something that One Stop are certainly very adept at handling. So again, it's kudos to them for ensuring that impact has been minimalised as much as possible. And just in terms of pricing, or where we see pricing going in the market, particularly at the moment, there has been some downward pressure in the Australian market over the past month or so, and that's as a result of the other markets and projects in Europe and the US and slowing. So there's been more supply into the Australian market. We see pricing stabilising, and we certainly believe that later in the year, particularly in the second half of the year, as you know, the European, US, and other Asian markets start to find some degree of normalcy, then we'll start to see demand really increase to the point where supply may be somewhat constrained, maybe around fourth quarter. So it'll be just interesting. But again, you know, good relationships with the distributors such as One Stop, they'll insulate you from those sort of issues. So I guess the take-home message from the COVID perspective is it's manufacturing as normal for us now, albeit that we're, you know, there's a few slight hiccups that we have to deal with occasionally, such as shipping, but it's not something that I think you're going to see from an end installer perspective having any impact. Now, on to other things. So we've still been pushing forward with our development over recent times, and there's a new product that we've released, which is the Haiku MS or Haiku Mono module. For those of you not familiar with Canadian Solar, we produce both poly and mono ingot and cells. So we're I guess you'd say we're agnostic in terms of technology. A lot of people in recent times have been saying, oh, look, poly's gone, it's all mono. And if you've been in the industry as long as I have, you know that 5 or 6 years ago, people were saying mono's gone and poly's going to be dominant. So we stick with poly because we believe there's a long way to go on the cost curve with poly. And we're very invested in R&D and development on the poly side and also on the mono side as well. So all of our products are PERC half cell, and we don't produce any full cell, or certainly none of it comes to the Australian market anymore. And there's a lot of advantages there that we can cover in a separate session, or you can reach out to your One Stop account manager if you want to find out more about the advantages there. But it's typically, you know, as pointed out there, greater reliability, better shade tolerance, and greater efficiency. So yeah, just back to our new release, the Haiku MS. So there's 2 sizes to that. There's the 120 cell format, which we believe is good for residential. It's certainly popular in residential and also in CNI. And the wattage range we're currently supplying on that is 360 to 370 watts. So again, chat to your One Stop account manager. And also then we have a large format, the 144 cell format, which is the CS3W, which goes up to 440 to 450 watts. So it's we're seeing more of those large format modules that typically were used in utility finding their way into CNI these days, as well as people start to look at the benefits of using large format modules and how that better helps the levelized cost of energy. So yeah, so reach out to your account manager and grab some details of that. So that's stocked and available, I think, pretty well in just about every state with One Stop currently, which is great. Now, I did touch on that we're still very invested in poly to the extent that we've got our new poly technology, which will be available in the second half of the year, which we refer to as P5. It's sort of our 5th generation poly cell design, if you like. Yes, there's been some efficiency wins with it, and you know, all module manufacturers or R&D houses love to get these awards. What does it really mean? Well, it just means that they're pushing the envelope forward in terms of development and what's going to be available out there. So P5 is what we call, or what in the industry they refer to as cast mono or quasi mono. It actually uses a mono cell to begin the casting process, but it also uses poly material as well. So it has a a mono-like appearance, and it has an increased efficiency over standard poly, but you get an increased power output and efficiency. So, you know, we sort of see that it'll gain us another 8 or so watts in terms of our product power output. So again, that's something new that'll be coming in the second half of the year. There's some of the advantages of P5. So we continue to push the poly technology along with mono. So for those of you out there that have a preference one over the other or want to understand the differences, feel free to reach out at some point. That's essentially what I wanted to cover today. I wanted to keep it relatively brief, but again, speak to your local one-stop account manager if you'd like to do or understand more about Canadian. If you need technical support, we've got plenty of people here to help out with design. Even if you're looking at moving into larger scale ground mount, if you've been in the rooftop C&I space, we're happy to help support and guide you through that process. So thanks, Tim. I'll hand back to you.
Thanks, Michael. Really appreciated your presentation from Canadian Solar, and to hear about your new panels was great. We are going to have Ron McDermott speak to us. Ron is he works in the presentation space, the exhibition space, and he taught people how to use that. So Ron, please feel free to jump in and share with us some of your marketing insights.
Thanks very much, Tim, and I'll set my timer at 25 minutes here just to help you reel in a little bit of time. First of all, a little bit of feedback. I'm going to have the chat settings set on my device so that I can see your comments as they come through. So as we go through, I can't hear you. I can't necessarily respond to every single comment out there, but I will be watching the feed go through. And when I ask for a yes, no, maybe, or you know, a 3-word answer to a question, please have a go at that and let me see your comments. And that way I have the feeling that I have a physical audience. I know you're all out there. So if we could just have my title up there, please. Very good. Okay, here we go. The vaccine that your business needs right now. This is Formula 4R. And indeed, your business doesn't just need this right now. Your business was needing this last year, the year before. Ever since you've got into business, your business needed this vaccine, whether it got it or not. Your business will need this vaccine long after the current calamities are over and done with and have become somewhat of a memory. So this particular vaccine works, but it has to be administered every day or every week. So don't get despondent when you hear this. It's just a fundamental thing about your business. Now, my background is in sales, and sales and marketing, but I use a very small m with the word marketing because I'm a salesperson. I've been a salesperson, a business owner, a sales manager, and in business for myself for the last 10 years or so. I work with small businesses, large corporates, government, and all sorts of other people in between. And my business is all about, in normal circumstances, about how to be a better exhibitor and about how to perform better in a trade show and exhibition environment. Well, that's all over Red Rover now for at least the next 12 months or so. So it's just as well I'm closer aligned to be in the business of making sales, regardless of the environment that this is actually happening in. So my vaccine for your business success and your survival is based upon my sales background through 30 odd years of lots of personal and public calamities. So stock market crashes, previous viruses, the September 11, the airline pilots dispute, all of those things taught me rather a lot about how to sell a product and how to stick around so that we can keep on selling it for tomorrow. So if you're interested in hearing my process, please stick around with me. Now, I don't have a PowerPoint presentation that's running right through this. You are now in a PowerPoint-free zone. However, a version of my PowerPoint will be available to you through One Stop Warehouse a little bit later on. And also I have another means of sharing more information with you. So if you're, whether or not you're taking notes, it really doesn't matter. If you are taking notes, there are 4 things that I will want you to write down, and maybe another 2 words apart from that. But apart from that, let's just have a face-to-face conversation here. Let's try and do that. So what is 4R all about? Well, it's like this. There are 4 aspects of 4R. Is reaching out, relating, reacting and responding, and recording. How simple it can be to have a formula that can save the life of your business and ensure your future prosperity. But really, it is that very, very simple. Indeed, and you'll notice that I'm standing up here. Well, actually, I'm not sure if you can notice, but I am. So if I'm moving around a little bit, that's the reason why I'm not on a wobbly chair. Reach out, relate, react and respond, and record. Those are the principles that underpin the way that sales happens, and the way that sales are happening in the year 2020, and the way that sales were happening 100 years ago. Now, what can we apply this concept to? We could apply it to trade shows. As we said, let's not talk about that. It could relate to how it is that we do face-to-face business. Right at the moment, we're face-to-face in kind of a virtual way, and it really doesn't count. However, it relates very specifically about making voice contact, real human contact. Voice primarily through phone. We have that avenue available to us. What about some other avenues? Email campaigns. If we're already doing it and doing it well, we can probably keep on doing it and apply 4R to it. If we're not already doing it, don't bother, because it's just too hard to do from a standing start when you've still got a lot of catch up to do. What about your website? Tim discussed this earlier on. Is it, if you are a corporate entity and your website is already a hip and happening thing, continue to do what you're doing and apply 4R principles. Otherwise, forget about it. It's too much work for not enough result, and will take you away from your customers. So let's focus upon the things that you can do, the things that you can do tonight, tomorrow, next week, and beyond, with minimal investment and outside effort. So if that sounds like something that you want to get involved with, that's something that I'd like to share with you. Now, we can't talk about all of these things, and as a matter of fact, some of that has been covered very well by Tim. So what I want to talk about now is how to rediscover the ancient art of having a conversation with a total stranger, or someone that you all know very well, or your suppliers or whomever, but it's establishing voice contact. How can we actually do that? So we're going to talk about that now, and this is the first of our 4Rs of reaching out. How do you reach out to a total stranger or a customer or anybody at all when you're kind of stuck at home, or when you're working in a very restricted environment on your job site? Well, you need to be able to do it on the only way that's available to us right now. The technology has advanced a lot, but a telephone is still a telephone. Who are we going to reach out to? Well, some of you have a thing called a database, a very, very carefully nurtured database, and they're in as a customer list. And you can just bring up all of those customers and dial them automatically, pretty much one after the other. The majority of small business don't have that particular luxury. Indeed, you will have contacts on an Excel database, perhaps within your accounting system, maybe within Outlook, or maybe if you pick your way through your social media channels, you'll find some of the people that you do business with. But those are the people that we need to reach out to: our customers, our prospects, and our suppliers. in pretty much equal measure because we have to keep the faith and the communication from start to finish there. How will we go about this? Now, bear in mind, this is not something you do hands-free in the truck on the way to a job. It just disrespects your customer. You need peace and quiet. You need to be able to have a nice clear line to be able to have a business-like discussion with whomever it is that you want to talk to here. So you do need to allocate time for this. Many of us have got that time on our hands, so let's use it wisely. I have a little suggestion for you here. If you do sit at your desk, make sure that it's clear of all of the junk that you normally have on it. Just take a brush to it, get rid of everything. Pictures of your kids and your grandparents, pictures of yourself if you're that narcissistic, but get rid of all of that stuff. Give yourself a clear space so that you can think of one thing and one thing only, your customer or the person at the other end of the telephone. Here's another thing that I do when I'm in telephone mode. I never actually sit at my desk, I stand, and I'm standing right now. Indeed, when you're standing and I'm roving with a phone stuck to my ear, your voice changes, you gesticulate more easily. That affects your facial expression, that affects the brightness of your voice, and it helps that person that you're speaking to feel that you're right there talking with them and you're not just sitting there bored, sitting in front of your desk, fiddling around on your keyboard. And incidentally, people can tell, just like your spouse can tell, when you're fiddling on the keyboard or taking notes while you're supposed to be giving them your undivided attention. I'm just going to bring up my little chat thing here, so you're welcome to contribute towards this if you identify with any of this. The other thing that I suggest you do before you start speaking to your customers, your suppliers, or your prospects, or your quotes in progress, is to smile in advance of making the phone call. If you have any trouble doing this, just look at a mirror, think of something funny, get a smile on your face, and hit the telephone, tap your telephone dial at the same time. Believe you me, the very first words that come out of your mouth will sound so much better and brighter than if you're sitting there nervously waiting for the person at the other end of the phone to respond. So that's called reaching out. Can you do that? Can you do that? You're in business. Whether you're in small business or bigger business, you can do that. You can get into, and thank you very much for that, you can get into your database if you have one. You can get into your Outlook. You can get into your accounting system. You can get into Excel. You can have a look at your recently called list on your phone. But one way or the other, you can start talking to people. People, incidentally, who really want to speak with you. People are so desperate for conversation right now. Look, for many, many years, we've had pushback with people protecting themselves through voicemail and email and text messages rather than talk to someone called a salesperson. But really, the worm has turned now. We're now at the stage and we have a narrow window of opportunity where we have permission and people want to talk to us, a real live person, a real interactive conversation. So that you've reached out. That doesn't sound too hard. But we know you have to start somewhere, and your very life, the life of your business depends on it. So really, what incentive do you need to reach out? So that's the first one, reach out. The second one is what it is that we say when the other person answers the telephone. Well, this is our second point, and this is relate. Relate, or you might interpret this as help your person at the other end of the phone identify with you in some way. So let's look at as if this was a personal conversation. If you're face to face with someone, what's the apart from the smile that they would see on your face, what would you automatically do in a normal course of business when you're only 2 or 3 feet away from another person? You usually lean forward and hold out your hand, and generally that is reciprocated with a handshake, isn't it? Or a nod, or a doff of the hat, or whoever it is that you're speaking to, but there would be some sort of gesture or something that says, okay, we've met each other, we've had our handshake, but how does that happen on the telephone? Well, it's like this. You are as intimate with the person at the other end of the telephone as possible and is appropriate. Now, the person at the other end of the telephone might be a prospect that you have a quote in progress with, and it might be an elderly lady by the name of Mrs. Jones. Or you actually might have had permission previously to call her Julie, or if she's a very intimate acquaintance, she might be Jules. So maybe the first word that comes out of your mouth when that lady answers the telephone, you say, Mrs. Jones, ? Julie, Jules, whatever it is that works for you, the very first words out of your mouth is the most intimate version of that person's name that you feel that you're permitted to call her. Now, that person at the other end may give you a tentative yes, or maybe there'll be a silence, but don't let that silence become awkward. Follow that straight up with the most intimate version of yourself that you can give. Hi, Mrs. Jones, Julie, Jules, this is Ron McDermott, Macca, if you know me as Macca, from Mac Solar. How are you doing today, Jules? So I finish with her name. I use my the person at the other end of the phone. I use their name 2 or 3 times. I use my own name a couple of times and help them understand who I am. Now that takes a little bit longer than an actual handshake, but that's the handshake. So that's what we're doing. Can you do that? Yeah, you do it pretty much all of the time. But let's just think about. Thank you very much for that. Yes, to create the maximum level of intimacy without making that person feel uncomfortable. Now, I have a question for our audience now. I want to know the best 2 words after that handshake, the best 2 words that you can use to kickstart a conversation with a total stranger. I need to see some 2 words. 2 words. What are the best 2 words you can use to kickstart a conversation with a total stranger? How you doing? Look, that's 3, but that's pretty good. Hi there, thank you. Any more? Good day, excellent. Very good. Can I share another special 2 words with you? This may be the only notes that you'll take from me today. This is the top secret. I've been talking about this for the last 20 years or so. So if you've never been along to one of my iPower or Smart Exhibiting events, you may have never come across it. But the best 2 words you can use to kickstart a conversation with a total stranger is tell me. Tell me. Now, depending on how you say this, it can sound like an interrogation or something a little bit softer if you soften your voice, more like a conversation. And we want the more conversational way of saying this. We don't want people to feel like they are being interrogated. So tell me. Now, tell me works because it says, I'm interested in you and I want to learn all about you. And when we follow tell me with 4 or 5 other words, it has the other person talking. And I'll give you an example. Hi, Jules, Julie, how are you today? Oh, I'm doing pretty well. Thanks very much, apart from the fact that I can't get out of the house. Right, who else are you stuck with, Julie? Oh, look, my mother-in-law, my husband, my extended family, they can't get back on the cruise ship. Oh, when are you going to be able to get rid of them? Oh, look, maybe another couple of months yet. So when you follow the words tell me, which is a command as well as a question, and you immediately follow with the appropriate who, what, when, why, where, it has that person talking about something that they're particularly interested in themselves, rather than you talking about your favorite subject, which is, of course, you. Am I making sense on this? And yes, and I have a comment here. Tell me sounds like I'm inquiring, and that's what you're doing. You're inquiring and you're asking a question. So who, what, when, why, and where. Now tell me works because it says, I'm interested in you and I want to learn all about you. Now, you need to be able to listen to the response here because sometimes the person has got quite a story to tell. And in the times that we're living in now, it may be quite a significant story that that person needs to unload that may have nothing to do with business whatsoever, but nevertheless, without interrupting, with maybe making a small sound here and there, you'll listen to what that person has to say. Now, the other thing that was so good about Tell Me is that the other person cannot make the so-called monosyllabic answer. In other words, they cannot say yes, and they cannot say no. So it forces them to talk, and it talks about themselves or their personal situation. Could I just get the common sense test? Is that does that make sense to you? Does that make sense to you? Can I see a few yeses along the line there? Okay, thank you very much for that. It's good to see somebody out there. I've got an absolutely. Thank you very much. So here's a little thing. If we say tell me more than once in the conversation, we sound like a very, very scary person that person never wants to talk to again. So the idea is you say, tell me once, right from the get-go, but your immediate follow-up questions, if you have any, if you have time for any, is just the who, what, when, why, where. And that way it softens the tell me, because the tell me can be like hitting over the head with a sledgehammer otherwise, and we simply don't want to do that. So here's the take-home point from this. Say tell me once, think tell me again and again and again, and automatically those question type words will come out, and you'll get to learn everything you want to know about your customer or prospect or supplier, and indeed a whole lot of stuff that you didn't want to necessarily know, but you're getting the story anyway, and people are locked away and they need to be able to talk. So let them do that. You reckon you can do that? Do you think you can apply it in your own family? Practice on members of your own family. First of all, you'll be amazed what your teenage sons and daughters will actually end up telling you at the end of the day, if you're to the point. So we have kickstarted a conversation, and we have learnt a lot about what our customer wants, what makes them tick, and what their issues are. And some of those tell me's, of course, would be business related type questions that may relate to the status of our quote in the system, or how they feel about the conversation that we had the other day about solar, or doing something with their body corporate, or bringing in the yellow gear to get the project underway, or whatever. So tell me unearths all of those pieces of information. Let me just do a sound check, a check on myself on my time. Okay, very good. Now, after the tell me, and after our prospect has exhausted themselves telling them all about us, it is now your turn. Now, I like the way that one of the previous speakers spoke about the situation in the market and the issues with installers and whatever before he started to speak about his own business. I thought that took a lot of restraint to be able to do that, because after all, when you are making a business presentation or call, the first inclination is to talk about yourself. So if you can resist doing that, it's always appreciated by your listeners. So the number 3 point, if we're taking notes, we reach out, number 1. Number 2, we relate. Number 3, we react. Or you could say we react and respond. That's our 3rd point. And how do we respond? If you're taking notes here, there's a phrase I'm going to say. We respond to our customers' long-winded answer to our questions that could have gone on for 5 or 10 minutes. We respond with a crisp, succinct, memorable message. In other words, we don't insist on equal time, because that's just going to bore our customer to death, and when our phone call is not going to be appreciated. So you might have heard of the expression, the elevator pitch. That is the conversation you get to have with someone in an elevator as you're going from the 10th floor to the 5th floor, that gives them the story of your life or your business. That's really what we're speaking about here, because out in the field, you might have 10 minutes or hours or days to have a long-winded, prolonged conversation. But in a telephone call situation, that's only going to go for a maximum of 3 to 5 minutes. You need to be able to spit out your story in 5 to 10 seconds. That's what I'm saying, 5 to 10 seconds. Can I just get a little bit of feedback here? Does that make sense to you, that you don't have a lot of time to get your story out? And indeed, you've got to get to the point here, because although the customer has shared with you, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily interested in you at the same level. That's just business, and we've got to accept that. Good, thank you very much for that. So, a crisp, succinct, memorable message. How can we create such a crisp, succinct, memorable message? Well, I heard the basis for a lot of those crisp, succinct, memorable messages throughout the presentations. I heard expressions like bundles. I heard expressions like unique selling proposition, or what some of us call USPs. I heard expressions that I interpreted as triplicate of choice. That is, do you want the basic, this version, or the super deluxe version? I'll have one in the middle, thank you very much. So we have a crisp, succinct, memorable message that relates who we are and what we do and how we can help our customer. And literally in 5 to 10 to 15 seconds. Now, here's a few hints about how to create such a message. Now, this message is incredibly important because this is a message that is going to form the basis of your telephone conversations. It forms the basis of your social media messages, your key messages on your website, your direct mail messages, every other message that you want to put out there for the sake of consistency. This is your message. And this is what your message has to revolve around. Our key message, we have to support our key messages with stories and examples about people who are already benefiting from our products or services. Did you hear anything about technical stuff there? Now, I listened to the esteemed gentleman leading up to my presentation. I was really interested in hearing what they had to say, but look, I'm not in the solar industry, and I'm not a solar technician. I couldn't understand any of the jargon, but it did sound impressive. However, if you try and use the same jargon on your customer, they ain't going to be impressed, more than likely. You're going to lose them, you're going to bore them, and you're going to be just a goner. So we need to speak in terms that our customers can actually understand. So these are the sorts of messages. Can I just get a little bit of feedback if I'm making sense here? Okie dokie. Okay, here's some of the message, the sort of thing that our messages need to contain. How I'm going to save you money, or in business, how I'm going to make you money. I'm going to make your house or business a safer environment. It's going to be more sustainable. I'm going to talk about long service life and whole of life costs. Those are the things that our sales messages has to fundamentally go around. Now, in other words, we're demonstrating value, and you know what, talking about price is not something that you do at this particular stage. After relating that to our customer, our crisp, succinct, memorable message, and allow them to comment on that, this is the next question that I ask them, and it's another tell me. I don't say tell me, but I'm thinking it. I'm going to say, tell me, does this make sense to you? Or you might think of variations with that particular one. Does this make sense to you? Would you like me to come over for a site inspection? I can do that without even going near your house. I can use near maps for that, and I can get most of what I need to know, in the early stages. Would you like me to help you with, and look, my pet hate, ladies and gentlemen, I hate the word quote with an absolute passion. The bile comes up from my stomach when I hear the quote. I hate it. So I like to hear words like this. Would you like me to help you with a quotation? If you don't have the ability to make a firm quotation, what about a budget estimate? Or can I help you with a budgeting guide that will help us progress our discussion? Sooner or later, we can get together on Zoom or Skype or FaceTime or whatever you want to do. But, I'm not going to insist upon this because, it's pretty rude to try and kiss on the first date. Could I just have a little bit of feedback as to where I am with, am I making sense here? Does this sound like the conversation that you can have? Yes, yes. I've got an LOL and some yeses and then some absolutelys. Right, did you realise that you've just made a sales call? even if that call is to a supplier, because after all, what are you selling your suppliers? You're selling them confidence in your business. You have made a sales call to someone who's already got a quotation in the system with you, and you've made a sales call to someone who may be a total stranger, but we've happened to caught them at the right time this particular day to have a chat. You don't have to be a salesperson to make a wonderful sales call, and indeed, I think non-salespeople make much better sales calls than what most salespeople do. And I've got another point here. I hate the word, there's two words that I hate in my 30 years of sales. I hate the word quote, and I hate the word close. I hate them with a passion. I'm closing with my customer and prospect from the very first time that I open my mouth, or I interact with them, or that I open their gate, or that I exhibit manners, or the way in which I respond to an email. That person is drawn inexorably towards me as someone who is going to buy off me, or at least wish they could, from the very first conversation and interaction we had, including those telephone interactions. Because you know what? If I'm standing up and I'm just gesticulating and I know my stuff, I think I can be a pretty interesting person to talk to, and someone who that person will continue to talk to regardless of whether it's COVID or anything else. It's because I can demonstrate that I'm genuinely interested in them and I want to learn all about them. And if I can help them, I'll progress with my sales presentation. If not, I will respectfully say, well, Julie, Mrs. Jones, I don't think I'm the right person that you need to talk to here. It's another trade that you need to talk to. Indeed, it's a roof plumber that you need to talk to first. I'm going to, when we get off the phone here, I'm going to talk to these guys so that you can solve that problem, which sounds to me like is like a year or two's work. When you've solved it, I'd love to talk to you again about what I do. And that way you excuse yourself gracefully from the conversation. Okay, we've gone through 4 points out here. Reach out, relate, react, and the fourth one is record. I alluded to this before. The last way that we want to record anything about this conversation is while you're sitting on a chair with your fingers tapping on the keyboard. Doesn't matter how good your keyboard skills are, I know that you're doing this. Nobody wants to feel like they're talking to someone in a call center environment. They want to talk to someone who is a real person who genuinely cares and is interested in them. So that's a very, very important thing. So nevertheless, you've got the customer or your prospect, they're quoting dates or figures or some sort of technical requirements. So you will stop periodically during that phone call to say, oh, excuse me, just a second, I'm going to make a note of that. And you just jot down some scribble in front of you, not with a keyboard, but with the fingers, and borrow or a piece of chalk or whatever, scribble down enough so that you can recreate that conversation after you finish the call. That way, that person has had your undivided attention. And let's face it, at the end of the day, if you're on the keyboard when your spouse or daughters or whoever else calls and they know that you're on a keyboard, they just hate you to death for it. So your customers feel exactly the same way, although they wouldn't actually say so at the time. They're going to punish you just by not doing business with you. You know what? That's all we have for you today. Reach out, relate, react, and respond and record. You're going to have the ability to get the basics of my contact information from One Stop Warehouse next week. I also suggest that you might reach out to me on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I'm there as Ron McDermott. I'm pretty easy to find. And if you reach out to me on LinkedIn and interact with me, I've got some other cool goodies that I'm prepared to share with you. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I appreciate the fact that you've stayed with me here today. And Tim and Dee Dee, thank you very much for inviting me to be part of your panel today. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron, for that. That was great. It's nice to be reminded that sales is about talking to people. And I think you certainly reminded us that the telephone is a powerful sales tool and that we should be using it when we have this permission, when we actually, people will accept that, yeah, if I need to be reached out to, then the telephone is now a reasonable and acceptable way to be reached out to. So really appreciate your content there. We're going to move things along very quickly. Albert Smart is from Victoria. He's a sales manager for Warehouse. Please join us, Albert, and share with us a little bit about One Stop.
Thank you very much, Tim, and thanks, Ron, for that very insightful presentation there. So, first of all, everyone, my name is Albert. As Tim mentioned, I'm one of the sales account managers in Victoria. Some of you may already know me, but I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with anyone that doesn't know me yet. So I'd like to share with you a couple of slides here and just have a very, very quick discussion. So bear with me while I get that one ready. All right, it's just, here we go. So first slide here. So One Stop Warehouse, as you know, that's us, Be Clean, Be Green. Just moving on to this first page here, I would just like to give a little brief overview of our history. So we've been doing this for quite a while now. We just celebrated our 8th birthday. We've got 135 employees, but that's increasing, and we've got operations in all major states. With the graph that you see there in front of you, the main point that I'd like to make really is actually to thank yourselves and everyone else who has contributed to our growth in the industry. So we've had year-on-year growth, and we've become the largest distributor in the country. So just really, first and foremost, a thank you to everyone for your support. Moving along, we've had a couple earlier in the year, people being quite concerned as to whether or not we were open. So some of us were working from home, so the landline may have rang through a few times, but short answer, yes, absolutely, we are open. So there's a chat coming up. I'll just check that, sorry. So yes, we certainly are open for business as usual. And just so we did have inquiries, and certainly, yes, happy to say that we are continuing open. So moving along, next slide here, sorry. We have stock. That was another common question we were getting quite recently, because of obviously what was developing throughout the world with the coronaviruses that was escalating. A lot of people were concerned that we wouldn't be able to get stock. Whilst that may have been true for a short period of time, we were quite well prepared, and I'm glad to say that we certainly do still have very good stocks across everything and more than what you can see there, ranging from everything from budget to premium, such as German-made Alio panels, lots of options available from SunGrow, just to name a few. So we are, in addition to having quite good stock levels already, we're going to be running promotions and other things to really deliver more value to you guys that you can pass on to your customers. So just wanted to remind you, yes, we're open, and yes, we certainly have the stock. Moving along, for those that have visited any of our warehouses or offices recently, you'll notice a bit of a change. So we are taking this, I suppose this is a much more serious point, we are taking it very seriously in respect to the safe working practices as the government is requiring. So we have hand sanitizers available. There are barriers up to keep a safe distance, and we're certainly trying to minimize face-to-face contact as much as possible. So we're all in this together. I know that a lot of you have had it much, much harder, because face-to-face is a critical part of how you interact with your customers, more than on the phone, I'm sure. And we're just in it with you. We're responsibly, we're trying to keep safe, and we certainly hope that you're doing the same, so we can all get through this and be there on the other side. Moving along again, so just to sort of remind you a few things about us. So we are growing, we are hiring, we're actually looking to put on some new people. We're really, our sole purpose is to help the solar community. So I mean, these webinars are just one example of that. We're trying to really give yourselves and give everyone else a bit more exposure, a bit more information to what's going on. In addition to that, we are holding the price. So there had been a lot of lot of talk with other people pushing prices up, the dollar being uncertain, and a lot of sort of, I suppose, panic maybe in the market, but we've been able to hold our price, and we're pretty comfortable with things as they are. So we've got stable and secure supply, and prices are not going up. So that's not something you guys need to be concerned about, especially in the short to medium term. Things look quite good. One last thing, really just the exciting products. We'll be bringing out more and more products. Some of you are signed up to our newsletters. I'm sure you'll get flashes from time to time about new products, such as the Longi 370 that just came out. In addition, these sorts of webinars, thank you again for taking the time to tune in, and there'll be more stuff like this coming from us. So really just wanted to thank you all very much, and just reaffirm that we're very much involved in the solar community. It's something we care deeply about, and we thank you sincerely. So I'd like to pass back to Tim now, and again, thank you all for your attendance, and thanks for listening.
Thanks, Albert. I really appreciate you walking us through the one-stop experience and what we're doing for our customers. We're coming to the end of our presentation today, and we thank you for the many of you who've stayed along to the end. Join us for the last of our 4 seminars. We'll probably do some other things, but in this format, this will be the last of these 4 next Friday. Tell your friends, tell your workmates, tell people what we're doing, spread the news, share our social. It'd be really great if you let other people know that this last one is coming up. We're here to help, so please feel free to contact our team. We really thank our speakers today, which is there. We thank our speakers. We thank John Grimes from Smart Energy, Deepak Nayak from SunGrow, Peter Novak from Suntech, Ron McDermott from Ron McDermott, and Michael Rush from Canadian Solar. Just thank you for your contribution. Thank you for the information that you've given us today, and really appreciate everyone's patience in allowing the time to learn and to share and to have community. So really just thank everybody for being a part of this. Just a reminder that there's still the online event at Smart Energy. Didi will put the link back in there. If you feel like some more entertainment and probably something a little bit more interactive where you can get involved, feel free to jump in over there. Would like to just thank all the partners who've helped put these 4 things together. Huawei, FEMA, SunGrow, Longi Solar as our platinum partners. We just appreciate everything you've given us, and we'll see you next week for the final one. So thank you, everybody, and we'll call it quits.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks all. Bye.